Howdy, folks. Greyhawk 4x4 coming at you again, your resident vintage gamer. Today we're going to do a news video. We're going to talk about a couple of news items in the PC gaming milieu. The first of which is a Far Cry 6 story. This is from PC Gamer, where I got this. And this is talking about what the requirements are going to be for, what your PC requirements are going to be for playing Far Cry 6. Now, I have played every game in the Far Cry series to completion. It's one of the few franchises that I can say I've done that with. Like, every game in the series I've played all the way to the finish. And so I'm, of course, looking forward to this. The last one, Far Cry 5, for me was my favorite. And I'm looking forward to this one. And so here we've got the specs that they're saying that you're going to need and they're saying you won't need a high-end PC to play it. And this is just to be able to play it. You know, you got to have like a 3.1 gigahertz, 3.2 gigahertz i5. Looks like they're saying GTX 960, 4 gig, 8 gigs of RAM, 60 gigs hard drive space, which now they're saying solid state drive recommended, which I'm seeing a lot more of, and that has me a little bit concerned for my rig because I think it only has it has one terabyte, I think, on the solid state drive, and that can easily get chewed up because games now, I mean, Fallout 4 with the high res texture pack takes like some ridiculous, I think it's like 180 gigs or something like that. So that's just something my new rig, whatever my new rig is going to be, I'm going to have like multiple solid state drives on it, or I'm just going to try and spend the extra money and get like a massive one. But anyway, so that's like the minimum, but they're saying, that's 1080p, 30 frames per second, of course, with no ray tracing. And then and this gets into the whole point of the highs and lows of being a PC gamer. The second story I'm going to talk about is really a kind of a fun high point story of being a PC gamer. And this is one of the challenges that we have, is that you're always trying to stay ahead hardware wise for the next game that's getting ready to come out, the next, AAA title that's going to be a hog, So then they get into some of these other ones, like at 1080p 60 frames. Of course, ray tracing off again, and there you gotta have an i7. You gotta have a 8 gig GPU. They're saying 1080 or higher, 16 gigs of RAM, and the storage doesn't change. It doesn't look like on any of these, so that's good. Although right here it says here another 37 gigs for high HD textures. And that's optional, obviously. But everybody was going to want, who's not going to want the high res pack, So, and then, and that's at 1440p, 60 frames. Again, ray tracing off. Now, if you want to jump up and put your ray tracing on, you got to jump up to an i5 4.1 gigahertz, excuse me. And they're saying a 3070. Now, I have a 2770 Super, so it looks like for ray tracing, I'm out of luck with the hardware I've got. And then, of course, if you want to go full blast at 4K, 30 frames, ray tracing on, you got to have a 3080 10 gig, or AMD. I always focus on the NVIDIA stuff. I've always been an NVIDIA person. If you're an AMD person, I'm sorry, it's not I've always just been an NVIDIA guy. So, anyway, so it looks like, I'm going to be able to play it for sure, but I won't be able to have everything maxed, which is what, of course, everybody would love to be able to do. And that's one of the challenges that we all face. It's like, do I go spend the money to either build a new rig or buy a new rig just to play, the next games that are coming out, or do I wait a while? It's one of those things. It's a constant struggle that we go through, unless you're really, really wealthy, then in which you can just keep buying new rigs whenever you want to. But anyway, so that's the first story I wanted to talk a little bit about. Just let me know if you guys are excited for Far Cry 6, if any of you guys are like me and you've played all the other ones and you're really looking forward to this one, and what you feel about how you feel about these requirements based upon what your rig is right now. I'd love your feedback. So now let's jump over to the second story here. So this is actually, I stumbled upon this, and what this is there's a guy who, and this is his real name, Harry McCracken. That, I swear to God, that is his absolute real name. Swear. Anyway, the game is called Arctic Adventure, and this is a text adventure way back from the 80s that we had these, and I think there's a picture of it here. When you know, old people like me, when we first were introduced to computers, it was usually in the classroom at school, and you would have a whole bank of these TSR 80s, TRS 80s, there with the dual floppies and all that. And that's where you learned how to code and do simple coding and stuff like that. Anyway, so this guy wrote this thing called Arctic Adventure for that TRS 80, and he recently found it again, and this is him right there. This is Mr. Harry McCracken, and he found it again, and he found out, he went through the code and everything, and he found out that not only he made a typo back in the day, and it actually made the game unplayable, and he has since fixed it now, and you can actually play it right from here. So if I hit enter, I'm actually playing the game in the browser. It's free, of course, and it says you are in an igloo. Obvious exits. Out. You see a shovel and a warm coat. And then this is the way the text adventures were back in the day. You had to just figure out what the system, what words, what string of words to use to get it to respond. So let's type in get shovel and see if that works. Okay, so now it says you see warm coat, meaning I now have the shovel. So I could do the same thing. I've already done this earlier just to kind of test it out. But I can do you know, get coat, and it puts your coat on, and then you can go outside. And that's as much as I've played with it so far. But it's very reminiscent. That's what these old text adventures were. And you had to just figure out, because when I first started this morning, I think I said pick up shovel, and that didn't work. It said doesn't understand pick up, you know. So you have to figure out what words it wants and what, and then you have to, on top of that, then you've got to figure out the actual game itself. You got to figure your way out to where you want to go and all that. So this is just one of those fun little things about being a PC gamer that you stumble on every once in a while. So it's Arctic 81, obviously up here, arctic81.com. If you want to tinker around with this thing, it's very reminiscent. It's just like Zork. Any of you that remember Zork, the text adventure, I don't remember. I kind of maybe remember this, but there was a few of these that we would play in the computer, you know, class when, you know, the teacher was doing whatever, and we would just be playing with, even though we weren't supposed to, we'd be playing with games and stuff like that. This might have been one of them. I can't remember. But anyway, and it's a cool little story. If you want to read the story, you can also get there by, you know, going to this website, and then you can enjoy playing the game, and just something to pass some time. So anyway, guys, that's just a couple of the stories that I wanted to cover today, and we will be back with some more content tomorrow. Until then, we will catch you on the flip side.